Starting off with the project here, you can see that there are a lot of sounds, a lot of layers, but essentially all they do is they just play the exact same melody. For the first sound, I start with the Spitfire Audio WAP soft piano. And as far as effects go, I added this chorus, which basically just makes the piano more wide and it kind of softens it a little bit. After that, I just took out the low end and boosted a little bit of the high mids. All these samples in that style, they follow the exact same chord progression. So let me go ahead and break down the music theory. Here we're in the key of B minor. All we're doing is we're following this 3-2-1 chord progression. Right after that, we have the same exact chords, we just flip them the other way around. In every single scale, you have 7 notes which make up the scale. And depending on which note from the scale you pick, that's gonna be your root note. And that's gonna define whether the chord is gonna be minor or major based on the intervals in that scale. I have this chart which I made, which I use all the time as a reference point. And as you can see here, in the case of B minor, our first degree is gonna be B minor, so it's a minor chord. The second degree is gonna be diminished, which means it's gonna be a C sharp diminished chord. And the third chord is gonna be D major, so it's gonna be a major chord built on top of the D note. Once we jump back in FL Studio, as you can see, we started with a 3-2-1 chord progression, which means we have a major chord, we have a diminished chord, and then we have a minor chord. And since D is the third note from the scale, C sharp is the second note from the scale, and B is the first note from the scale, that's gonna be our scale degrees. And that's how we get the numbers which define these chords. So if I have a minor key and I have this, just the root notes, I can instantly tell that this is the first note, this is the second note, and this is the third note from the scale degree. And with the information that I just showed you, you just know that, for example, the 3 is always going to be a major chord. And all you're going to do is you're just going to come here and build a simple major triad chord. We know that the second chord in our scale is always going to be diminished. All we're going to do is we're just going to build a diminished chord. Now, since the diminished chord doesn't sound nice and it's not really used in these type of samples, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn this diminished chord into a minor chord. I'm just gonna take this top note and I'm gonna pitch it a semitone up. So now it's a minor chord. And moving on to the first note from our scale, we know that that's gonna be a minor chord. All we do is we just build a minor triad here. So since we're going for that R&B sound, what we're gonna do next is we're gonna turn these major and minor chords into 7 chords. And if you wanna do this, you just gotta skip a note from the scale and then place a note. So this is the next note from the scale, we're gonna skip it and we're gonna place a note here. And now we have a major 7 chord. Then we're gonna do the exact same thing with the next chord. So this is the note we're skipping and we have a minor 7 chord. Once again, skip this note, move here. These samples are layered a lot, so what I did next was I pulled up Analog WAV and I grabbed this pad and I copied the exact same notes. When it comes to sound selection, you just want to use the softest possible sound. So soft pianos, electric pianos, Rhodes, pads, bells, you know, all these sounds which are soft. After that, I bounced off the pad to an audio file and I added this electric piano from Lounge Lizard. Again, I'm just using the exact same notes. And for the electric piano, we have this EQ, which is just taking out the low end and the high end of a sample. The whole point of these samples is you just want to create something which is ambient and sounds big and it's really layered. For the next sound, once again I'm using Analog WAV and I have this tonal contrast bass which just plays the root notes of the chord progression. I wanted the bass to have a little bit more presence, so I went ahead and I added this plugin that added the CQ, which takes out the white noise and high end of the bass. A lot of these samples feature background vocals, reverse vocals, and we're just building on top of this whole ambience thing. And right after that, I added this reverse vocal. Moving on to the second part with the switch up, the first thing which I did was I took the piano, I exported it to audio file, and after that I just right clicked and I opened it in Edison, and I applied this technique which is called downsampling, and this is very common in Drake's music.
I'm notorious for this, like, very lo-fi, underwater sound. People usually assume that it's a low-pass filter, and then I'm just rolling off all the top end. But for the most part, I'm actually degrading the sample rate. So I'm removing those frequencies from the top end. They're not even getting sampled in the first place. They don't even exist. When you would take out that pristine high end and sort of lower the sample rate, it would become a little more authentic, almost different.
To achieve this effect, all you want to do is go here to sample rate, right click. It's usually gonna be 48,000. But what I do is I put it somewhere around 5,000 to 3,000. Right after that, you want to click resample and then accept. And what that's going to do is it's just going to take out the high-end information of your sample, and it's going to make it very ambient and pushed in the background. For the third piano, what I did was I came here and once again I applied the exact same technique, but this time I set it to 1500 Hz. I also exported and did the exact same thing to the electric piano as well as the pad. So you can see that there's absolutely nothing going on past 1000 Hz. Another big part of these samples is having synth accents and just things which are like ear candy. I added this synth accent. Basically just a synth sound which has a lot of delay and reverb. After that I added this pluck which has also a lot of delay. To top everything off, I added this percussion loop. If you want to make your own percussion loops, I have this free percussion loop toolkit, which is going to be in the description. You can go get it. I have presets which can turn your existing drum patterns into percussion loops. And for the final part, what I did was I just took these synths and I chopped them up a little bit, and then I changed the order in which they play. Now once you play all of the parts together, this is how the final sample sounds.